So coming to first, I think 20 to 25 minutes I will be talking on approach to thrombocytopenia, and then we will discuss management of adult ITP. So how we define thrombocytopenia? It is defined as subnormal amount of platelets in the circulating blood. Uh, so the normal platelet count is between 150 to 400 in 10 is to 9, so 1.5 lakh to 4 lakhs. Between 100 and 150, if patient has a stable platelet between 100 and 150, it is not considered a disease and it should not be treated. And normal population, almost 2.5% normal population has a count between 100 to 150. And particularly people from Northeast, Bengal and Bihar, they are having a larger platelets and many times they are referred to us for thrombocytopenia. But because of the larger platelet count, it's a pseudo thrombocytopenia and the platelet count is between 100 and 150 for these patients, and they should not be treated and it should not be considered as a disease. So when platelet count is less than 1, it is a pathological condition and it should be investigated. And clinical significant bleeding usually does not occur till platelet count is less than 20,000. But even mild thrombocytopenia can aggravate surgical or uh, bleeding after trauma. So this patient should be treated even if platelet count is more than 20,000. And establishing cause of thrombocytopenia is very important, but also sometimes quite challenging, particularly in hospitalized patient. And when thrombocytopenia is only mild to moderate, when patient is having severe thrombocytopenia, platelet count is less than 20,000, the diagnosis is relatively easy. But those who present with platelet count between 50 to 100, diagnosis is more difficult. So mild thrombocytopenia is between 1 lakh to 150, moderate is 50 to 1 lakh, and severe is less than 50, and very severe is less than 20,000. So keep in mind, these are 95% confidence interval. So 2.5% of normal population will have platelet count below 150, usually between 100 and 150, and for them it is a normal count. Coming to practical importance of thrombocytopenia, one third of all references in multi-speciality hospital are for thrombocytopenia. 5 to 10 5 to 10% of all hospital patients are thrombocytopenic, and in the ICU even the number increases to 35%. Thrombocytopenic patients in the hospital suffer a twofold greater mortality rate than those who are not. So this should this thrombocytopenia should be addressed, and platelet transfusions are more common than not used in an indicated patient. So unnecessary platelet transfusions are given more than indicated platelet transfusions. Pathology, there are four main categories. I don't know why it is. Redistribution of platelet sequestration, hemodilution, bone marrow dysfunction or decreased production, and there is platelet destruction or increased consumption. So these are the four main mechanisms by which thrombocytopenia occurs. And this cartoon shows the same thing, that there is a bone marrow megakaryocytic pool. If there is a decreased production due to aplasia or hypoplasia, then there is a thrombocytopenia. If there is ineffective thrombopoiesis, it's like conditions like MDS, then also there is a decreased platelet and causing thrombocytopenia. Once the platelets come out with the blood, there is a circulating platelet pool, and one third of this platelet are in the splenic platelet pool. So when there is a sequestration or there is an imbalance, increased sequestration of platelet in the spleen, again there is a thrombocytopenia, and when platelets are distracted because of the antibodies, so there will be increased platelet destruction and there will be thrombocytopenia. So usually patient can present with such petechiae even with moderate thrombocytopenia also sometimes uses such petechiae all over the body. It can occur, and it should be differentiated with such palpable purpura which are seen in henoch-scalene purpura. Usually these such purpuras are present in HS purpura only on the lower limbs and very occasionally on upper limbs, but most of the time it is seen on the lower limbs. And when there is a severe thrombocytopenia, patient can have such mucosal bleeding. And when you see such bleeding, uh, you should consider it is an emergency. Patient can have a internal bleeding or uh, intracerebral bleeding also. So when such mucosal bleeding are seen, usually the platelet count is less than 20,000 or 10,000, and patient should be treated immediately. Before coming to approach for thrombocytopenia, first of all, we should rule out pseudothrombocytopenia. It can occur because of the platelet clumps or platelet agglutinins, and it also occurs in various paraproteinemias. As I mentioned that this Northeast population where platelet site is large. So because of the giant platelet also there can be pseudothrombocytopenia in lipemia also, and the commonest mistake is EDTA induced platelet clumping, which is a very common thing to occur, and uh, pseudothrombocytopenia will unnecessarily initiate the treatment or further investigation. So first of all, pseudothrombocytopenia should be ruled out. Uh, so you can see the clumping here because of the EDTA, and peripheral smear examination should be done, and pseudothrombocytopenia should be ruled out. So coming to the first mechanism, which is redistribution. So spleen carries almost one-third of our total body platelet mass, and in hypersplenism there will be redistribution and may contain almost 50% of the platelet mass, and there will be thrombocytopenia. Cirrhotic patient or chronic liver disease is the commonest cause for splenomegaly and this hypersplenism. Slide is not moving. And coming to hemodilution, when there is a excess plasma or red cell transfusion because of trauma, that can be hemodilution. And when platelet poor transfusions are given like a PRBC or FFP, patient can have a thrombocytopenia. Then there is a production issues, as we already seen, bone marrow dysfunction, which can occur in aplastic anemia, leukemia, paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria, myelodysplastic syndrome, and lymphoma or any other malignancy involving bone marrow, particularly uh, metastatic adenocarcinoma. So there also there will be less production of platelets because marrow is replaced by other tissue. And the fourth one is increased. Uh, there is also decreased production of platelets in infection, alcoholism, nutritional deficit like B12 and folic acid deficiency. Some drugs also causes myelosuppression and decreased platelet count. But usually this thrombocytopenia because of infection is transient. And the fourth mechanism is destruction. So basically platelets are destroyed in the body mostly by antibodies, and usually it is acute in nature, and patient may or may not have bleeding. The common cause for destruction are ITP, heparin-induced thrombocytopenia, uh, DITP or drug-induced immune thrombocytopenia, autoimmune diseases, and consumption. When there is increased consumption, uh, platelets are incident victims of some other pathological process, like platelets are consumed by abnormal clots in the circulation. So these conditions are also called as thrombotic microangiopathies, and usually they are acute in nature, like DIC, thrombotic TTP, hemolytic uremic syndrome, and health in pregnancy. Usually these are life-threatening conditions and they should be treated, diagnosed, and treated as early as possible. Large hematomas can also cause sometimes consumption coagulopathies and decrease in platelet counts. So uh, these are the causes according to the clinical scenario of the patients. When you see thrombocytopenia in outpatient patients, usually the commonest cause is ITP or drug-induced thrombocytopenia. Other causes are infections like viral infections, then connective tissue disorders, systemic lupus erythematosus, rheumatoid arthritis. When the patient see thrombocytopenia in inpatient, usually the commonest causes are infections, then TTP, DIC, liver disease. When you see patient in cardiology hospital or cardiology ward, it is usually heat or post-cardiac bypass, then drugs which are used like GP2B, PA inhibitors, and other drug-induced thrombocytopenias. And fourth scenario is pregnancy or postpartum, where gestational thrombocytopenia, ITP, or HELLP syndrome are common causes. So just narrating the causes of thrombocytopenia. When it is primary, it is in primary immune cytopenia or ITP, and second is drug-induced immune thrombocytopenia. In these two conditions, there is isolated thrombocytopenia, and there are no other conditions are there. The common drugs are heparin, quinine, and other drugs. I won't go in detail now. And then the food and history of food and beverages. Some of the quinine containing beverages like tonic water, bitter lemon, gin, and certain herbal tea, they also contain quinine like material, and they can cause thrombocytopenia. So history should be taken for these things also. And as for all the diseases, the most important part is history. So for reaching to diagnosis of thrombocytopenia, history is very important, and patient is bleeding or not, patient is having a acute bleeding or chronic bleeding, or patient is having a recurrent history of bleeding, previous reports and previous history of bleeding, history of recent travel, recent vaccination. So all these history are very important. Then patient is having any other complaints or other comorbidities, then history of alcohol, as I already mentioned, quinine containing beverages, uh, and any drug or exposure, particularly in ICU, we should take the history of all the drugs which can cause thrombocytopenia. So history is very important. And then physical examination. Again, the site of bleeding and patient is bleeding or not, and which site. It is a mucocutaneous bleeding or a skin bleeding or a joint or skeletal bleeding. Then the site of bleeding, whether it is corresponding or correlating with the thrombocytopenia or not. Then associated findings like hepatosplenomegaly, lymphadenopathy, skeletal abnormalities, skin necrosis, everything should be examined, and then only we will able to reach the exact diagnosis. So once history and physical examination is over, then the most important part is CBC and peripheral smear examination. One should always see the manual platelet count and peripheral smear examination. As I mentioned earlier, large size platelets or giant platelets will give false low platelet count. Then how many cell lines are affected. Then abnormal cells like cystocytes or macroevolucytes are seen on peripheral smear or not. Then associated other laboratory reports like PT, APTT to rule out coagulation disorder, liver function test for chronic liver disease, renal function test, all other marrow biochemistry tests should be done. LDH is very important. Uh, LDH is very high in hemolytic anemia and vitamin B12 deficiency. And if still diagnosis is not there, then one may go for bone marrow aspiration and biopsy. So peripheral smear examination is the most important thing, and majority of the causes are confirmed on peripheral smear examination only. And one should always uh, differentiate between the bleeding due to thrombocytopenia or bleeding disorder and bleeding due to coagulation disorders. So petechiae are very rare in coagulation disorder, while in coagulation disorder usually deep hematomas are there. Superficial ecchymosis are common but not petechiae, and they are usually large and solitary. Hemarthrosis is very characteristic of coagulation disorders. We will hardly see hemarthrosis in severe thrombocytopenia. And the bleeding is usually delayed, while in thrombocytopenia it is immediate. So coagulation disorder or usually associated coagulation disorder should be ruled out. And this algorithm is on the basis of uh, peripheral smear examination. So you see the peripheral smear examination, if there is platelet clumping, it is artifactual thrombocytopenia. And once true thrombocytopenia is there, if giant platelets or other platelets abnormality are seen, it can be hereditary thrombocytopenia and patients should be investigated for that. If you see cystocytes on the peripheral smear, TTP or HUS, if you see blast, then uh, acute leukemia or lymphoma involvement can be there. If you see nucleated RBCs, Evan syndrome or myelodysplastic syndrome can be diagnosed from the peripheral smear also. And microspherocytes and RBC clumping is seen in Evan syndrome when thrombocytopenia is associated with autoimmune hemolytic anemia. And then it is confirmed by direct Coombs test and serum LDH, which is very high in hemolytic anemia. If you see lymphocytosis, then there is a chances of chronic lymphocytic leukemia or viral infections. If you see toxic granulations, it can be infection and sepsis. And isolated thrombocytopenia, once there is no abnormality, other abnormality on the peripheral smear, then it is isolated thrombocytopenia. And the commonest causes are ITP and drug-induced thrombocytopenia, and it can be due to some viral infections also. So further investigations should be done accordingly. I won't go in detail. These are the different findings on peripheral smear of platelets, WBCs, and RBCs, and accordingly, we can investigate further to reach the final diagnosis. So there will be thrombocytopenia on automated blood counter on CBC, and also confirmed thrombocytopenia on peripheral smear. And if you can find out the corresponding peripheral smear, or is there is obvious reason for thrombocytopenia like recent chemotherapy, radiotherapy, splenomegaly, hemodilution, then no further tests are done. But if you can't find any cause uh, from peripheral smear also, then you perform bone marrow examination for megakaryocytes and other pathology. So if on bone marrow examination there is decreased uh, megakaryocytes, then examine marrow for infiltrative disease, aplasia, etc. If the megakaryocyte normal or increase, and look for other marrow elements. If they are normal, and that will confirm the peripheral platelet destruction. And once you exclude DIC, TTP, the diagnosis of ITP will be confirmed. And if other marrow elements are abnormal, then evaluate for primary hematologic disease other than ITP. So by using this algorithm, we can read the uh, final diagnosis of thrombocytopenia. Now we will discuss some special conditions uh, where thrombocytopenia is common and diagnosis is very important, particularly thrombocytopenia in pregnancy. When platelet count is less than 150, it is considered as mild thrombocytopenia and it occurs in 6 to 15% of women during pregnancy, while less than 1 lakh occurs in only 1%. So the commonest cause of thrombocytopenia during pregnancy is gestational thrombocytopenia, which occurs in 70% patients, while preeclampsia in 21% and ITP occurs in 3% of pregnant women. Gestational thrombocytopenia usually occurs in mid-second to third trimester of pregnancy, and platelet count is usually more than 70,000. And this thrombocytopenia resolves spontaneously within 1 to 2 months after delivery. And fetus or newborn baby does not have thrombocytopenia. So it is very important to differentiate between gestational thrombocytopenia and other causes of thrombocytopenia in pregnancy. This does not need any treatment, and there is a spontaneous recovery after pregnancy. While ITP in pregnancy occurs in 1 to 2 in 1,000 pregnancy, it is commonest cause of first trimester and early second trimester. Usually 1/3 time it is first time during the pregnancy, and in 2/3 cases it can be pre-existing ITP. And exacerbation of ITP in pregnancy is very common, and 9 to 15% of cases there will be neonatal thrombocytopenia. Uh, and if platelet counts is 50,000, less than 50,000, ITP diagnosis is done by default, provided there is no obstetric complications like HELP or other obstetric complication. Slides are not moving. So in pregnancy, there are pregnancy-specific isolated thrombocytopenia, that is gestational thrombocytopenia, and associated with systemic disorders in pregnancy like preeclampsia and HELP syndrome. And there can be thrombocytopenia in pregnancy which are not pregnancy-specific, like ITP or other drug-induced thrombocytopenia or thrombocytopenia associated with the systemic disorder. But the basic thing in pregnancy is to differentiate between gestational thrombocytopenia and ITP. Slides are not moving.
The topmost part there must be
What is the problem? The slides are not moving. So coming to gestational thrombocytopenia, for the women should have no past history of thrombocytopenia except during the previous pregnancy, and the thrombocytopenia, as I mentioned earlier, resolves spontaneously within 1 to 2 months after the delivery, and fetus newborn baby should not have had thrombocytopenia. And GTP, which is gestational thrombocytopenia, unlikely platelet count is less than 50,000. Slides are not moving every time. So the investigations which are to be done during pregnancy are same. And coming to heparin-induced thrombocytopenia, it is occurring in 0.5 to 5% of patients heparin treated subjects. And again, here also there is a moderate thrombocytopenia between 50 to 80,000, and it is rarely below 20,000. And venous or arterial thrombosis, necrotic skin lesions at heparin injection sites, or there is acute systemic reaction to IV heparin. So these the usual presentation uh, along with the thrombocytopenia. And usually heat occurs after 5 to 10 days of heparin, but can have early onset if there is a previous exposure to heparin. Usually diagnosis is purely on clinical findings, and sometimes this T4 scoring system is used for grading and for diagnosis. Heparin PF4 antibody testing, uh, it has a low specificity but higher sensitivity, while the C-serotonin release assay, it has a higher specificity but low sensitivity. But both these tests are not routinely done. I think in Ahmedabad, this first test, heparin P4 antibody testing is available, but nobody is doing this C-serotonin release assay. But as I mentioned, this heparin PF4 antibody testing, it has poor specificity. So these tests are not routinely done. And the treatment of it is to stop heparin and start alternative anticoagulant. This is more caused by unfractionated heparin than low molecular weight heparin, but both can cause HIT. These four T's are important in diagnostic algorithm for HIT, which are thrombocytopenia, timing of platelet drop, thrombosis, and very important to rule out other causes of thrombocytopenia. So it occurs between 0 to 5 days post heparin only if there is a previous exposure within last 100 days. If it occurs between 5 to 14 days of post heparin, and if heparin platelet count is between 50 to 80,000, then most likely diagnosis is hit. Delayed onset is very rare after 14 days. So this is the for residents. You should uh, can count the points from these four T's, and then higher the number of points, higher the chances of diagnosis of HIT. And what is the treatment of HIT? It is anticoagulation. So first of all, discontinue heparin, and then warfarin should be also avoided. The ideal anticoagulation which are to be used are direct thrombin inhibitors. They are ergotroban and bivalirudin. But now we can also use these direct oral anticoagulants like rivaroxaban, apixaban, and dabigatran. So in last 2 years, there are trials, results have came out, and it is shown that these DOACs are also safe and they can be used for treatment of HIT. And other common treatment is to use fondaparinux. It bypasses and the antibodies doesn't affect it, and fondaparinux also can be used. Then another condition where thrombocytopenia is common is in cardiac patients. Post open heart surgery, particularly with cardiopulmonary bypass, there is mechanical destruction of platelets and there is hemodilution in the bypass circuit causing thrombocytopenia. Then other causes are drug-induced sepsis or intra-aortic balloon pumping. So these are the common causes when you see thrombocytopenia consult in cardiac ward or post cardiothoracic surgery. The nadir of platelet count usually is on second or third day after surgery, and then there is a rapid recovery. Then the drugs like GP2B and 3A inhibitor, they cause thrombocytopenia that is very rapid onset within few hours after procedure, and it resolves by itself within 10 days. And again, you can see HIT patients in cardiac ward. Another common condition is drug-induced thrombocytopenia. So When we talk about drug-induced thrombocytopenia, usually it is drug-induced immune thrombocytopenia. When it is due to bone marrow suppression, uh, it is usually not considered. Uh, when we tell DITP, it is usually immune thrombocytopenia because of the drug-dependent antibodies against platelet glycoproteins. Usually there is moderate to severe thrombocytopenia and it occurs after 1 to 3 weeks of starting a new drug. It can occur within 2 3 days after previously taken drugs. And thrombocytopenia usually resolves in 5 to 10 days after drug withdrawal. The differential diagnosis is most commonly with ITP, and acute history will help the diagnosis. And diagnosis is usually empirical and based on platelet recovery after discontinuation of the drug. And you can confirm it by restarting the drugs, and after on restarting, if patient develops thrombocytopenia, then the diagnosis is confirmed. And again, I'm mentioning here that cranberry juice, tonic water, gin, walnuts, and certain herbal tea can cause thrombocytopenia, and this history should be taken. These are the number of drugs which can cause thrombocytopenia, and you can see the most of the mechanism is immune, but some drugs can cause thrombocytopenia by myelosuppression, and the most important is linezolid. Every month I must be seeing a one patient where severe thrombocytopenia is there because of the linezolid. So, and most of these patients are either hospitalized and then they are discharged on oral linezolid, and patient has taken linezolid for 7 days, 10 days, 15 days, and then they come with severe thrombocytopenia. Linezolid should not be given uh, for more than 7 days. If you want to give for more than 7 days, then check the platelet count regularly after 7 days because it causes dose dependent thrombocytopenia. Something about platelet transfusion, which is prophylactic versus therapeutic. So therapeutic is common on surgical and cardiology setup, while prophylactic transfusions are most common on medicine and hem services. So when do you give prophylactic transfusions? So major surgery or invasive procedure is to be done in spite of there is no active bleeding. But if platelet count is less than 50,000, then prophylactic platelets should be given. For ocular surgery or neurosurgery, even if there is uh, no bleeding and platelet count is less than 1 lakh, then prophylactic platelets should be given. Surgery with active bleeding and if platelet count is less than 50, then prophylactic platelets should be given. If patient is stable, there is no bleeding, but if platelet count is less than 10,000, then platelet should be given, which is the scenario for most of our bone marrow transplant patients. We don't transfuse them if patients are afebrile, then up to 10,000, we don't give prophylactic platelets. If patient is febrile or there is an infection, then we give prophylactic platelets at 20,000. But if patient is stable and afebrile, then we don't give platelet transfusion up to 10,000. So these are the procedures uh, where which are to be done in a case of thrombocytopenia. Then what are the expected, what should be the platelet count to do such this procedure? So for tooth extraction, usually the platelet count should be uh, more than 30,000. For lumbar puncture emergency, 20,000 is sufficient. For central line replacement, again 20,000, more than 20,000 is required. For gastrointestinal endoscopy and biopsy, more than 20,000 is required. For liver biopsy, percutaneous, platelet count should be more than 50,000. For minor surgery, platelet count should be uh, more than 20,000. For major surgery, it should be more than 80,000. And for neurosurgery or cardiothoracic surgery, it should be again more than 80,000 to 1 lakh. For platelet transfusion, two products are available, random platelets and single donor platelets. Random platelet will increase platelet by 5,000 and the dose should be given usually 4 to 5 units, and single donor platelet is equivalent to 5 or more units of random platelets, and it will increase platelet count by 30 to 50,000 units. So usually one single donor unit is sufficient to stop the bleeding. How we administer platelets? Usually ABO compatible platelet should be used, but it is not compulsory. Platelets don't have RH antigen, so RH positive or RH negative, any platelets can be used, but one should see that there is no RBCs are there in SDP or random platelets. Transfuse within 4 hours once out of the blood bank, and rate should be 1 unit within 30 minutes. And the lifespan of transfused platelets is usually 2 to 3 days, but it can be shorter in patients having a fever or infection. And factors this shortening these lifespans are fever, sepsis, HLA mismatch, platelet specific antibodies, or alloimmunization, or there is some consumption because of the DIC. So how you increase the life of platelet transfusion or response to improve the response to platelet transfusion? So treat the underlying condition, transfuse ABO identical platelets, transfuse platelets less than 40 hours in storage, and you can increase the dose and increase the count also, and select the compatible donor like HLA match or donor from the family, but then it should be irradiated.
Sir, is there some timer which is set that it won't move before that?
No. I don't know
Sir,
why.
topmost portion, you see the this thing. There is an option of the exit the full screen. There,
I think I should exit from the queue.
no, exit full screen. Exit full screen. On the topmost part, zoom. There will be this thing options.
That is also not coming.
Or sir, press escape button.
Oh, that is good.
Now next slide.
So, coming to end of this first part, thrombocytopenia, the take-home points are thrombocytopenia can be from 4 different categories, and careful history and physical exam is very important. Pathologist can be a very helpful person in diagnosis if given proper history, particularly from peripheral smear examination only. We can read the diagnosis and avoid bone marrow biopsy. Microangiopathies must be identified and treated quickly, and all patients of thrombocytopenia does not require platelet transfusions or treatment. And many surgeries can be carried out without platelet transfusion if platelet count is more than 50,000. So avoid unnecessary